Welcome back, world history students.
Woo!
Very exciting topic, Russia
I know.
today. As you can see on the map, Russia is the largest country in the world, although most of the
action. Look at us. We're like kindred spirits here. Two peas in a pod.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Most of the action in Russia takes place in the area that Mr. Loebner is highlighting with the yellow circle. Capital Moscow and what's with the Ziggly borders?
All right, the history of Russia is a history of expansion. We'll talk about that later, but Russia is going to, over the many, many years, encompass all of the territories down here. They're going to threaten into Iran, into Korea, and they're going to take a lot of Eastern Europe. We'll get to all of that, but Russia is our topic for today, so let's begin.
Woo!
Tell me about Ivan.
The first Tsar. Well, I know a lot about Ivan. Well, I just watched a movie on him. But first of all, anybody remember what Tsar means? Anybody? Mr. Loebner?
Does that mean like a king?
It does mean like a king. So Ivan IV, also known as Ivan the Terrible, comes to power at a very young age, a little bit older than Louis, but still pretty young. And in order to show his power and his dominance, he takes the term Caesar, meaning king, czar, to demonstrate that he was an absolute ruler and was going to take total control. Interesting fact before we move on, but Ivan the Terrible, in Russian, the word terrible did not mean what we think of as terrible, meaning bad, negative, horrible person. It actually meant strong and powerful. So it was actually more of a compliment back then, but as you guys will see, his bad period, he's going to live up to the title of terrible.
All right. It wasn't always bad. Ivan
No.
had a wife, Anastasia, and the first 13 years of his rule was known as a good period. But then she died, and he believed that she was poisoned, much like his mother was poisoned
Yep.
before him, and this spirals him into a downward period. And they didn't have therapists back then, but
No.
if it were today, Ivan would have been crazy.
Yes, definitely diagnosed as crazy.
Like me.
Crazy.
There he is, Ivan, with a full beard.
Yeah, I was going to say menacing look. Very, very terrible, very scary looking.
Like an older Loebner, except more hair.
More hair. We don't know what's under that hat.
True.
So when Ivan's wife dies, it is suspected, or he suspects, that she was poisoned by those boyars. And if you remember from the first slide, or you saw in the first slide, those were the landowners, sort of the nobles of Russian society. And he was very suspicious of them. He, again, we said, kind of was a little crazy and kind of felt that everyone was out to get him. And so he organized a group of secret police. They dressed in black. They were known as the Oprichniki. And their job was to go out and execute these boyars and their families and do whatever he could to make their lives pretty terrible.
And this will be a recurring theme in Russian history. Wait till we talk about Stalin, who
Oh,
was
man.
even more ruthless than Adolf Hitler. Stalin himself was responsible for the deaths of tens of millions of people. So this is something that will last in Russia, is this secret police and the lack of freedom that people experience and the sheer terror that they had to endure.
Yeah.
So Ivan got in a fight with his eldest son. What was that about?
Supposedly, rumor has it that
Rumor
Ivan
has it.
got a little frisky. I shouldn't say frisky. I should say a little manhandled his daughter-in-law while she was pregnant, and the son was just not having that. And his eldest son was killed in a fight, and unfortunately, that left his younger, not so competent son left to take charge.
Yeah, he was mentally challenged, and he became a king eventually, which didn't bode well for Russia. Also, Ivan started serfdom in Russia, so we spent all that time in the Middle Ages talking about the terrible ways of being a serf or a
Feudalism,
peasant.
yep.
And now it starts in Russia later, and it's going to last all the way until 1861. It's a long time, which keeps Russia down.
A little bit backwards, I guess we could say.
So Russia goes through some times of trouble. Now, for a number of years, they didn't know who the true czar of the country would be. There were people dying mysteriously. There were imposters trying to claim the throne. Eventually, the Romanov family will take power, and once they are established, they'll hold the throne for 300 years.
Yeah.
And it's going to last until the end of World War I, when the communists overthrow them.
Wasn't like today where they can do DNA testing and, these scientific autopsies to figure out what happened. They just had to, keep going, and eventually they would find out who these people were. But
That is true. So Russia was backwards, as we had indicated. Serfdom lasts until 1861. The Renaissance never quite reached Russia. The Mongolians had cut that area off, so it did not spread from Europe into Russia. Russia's seaports were frozen in the winter, and Russia was not part of the age of exploration. So it's going to take Russia a long time to catch up to the rest of Europe.
pretty hard to explore when the only means of transportation is really boat, and the water is frozen where you are. So kind
Frozen.
of makes it difficult to get about.
Let it go.
I was just going to say, let it go.
Peter the Great.
Olaf.
Peter was 6'6". He was a very imposing, tall figure, and he ruled for a long time, 29 years, early 1700s. And he's known as one of Russia's great reformers. He's going to make a big trip around Europe, try to dress as a normal person,
Yep.
although he kind of stands out being
Yeah.
6'6".
And say so tall, but he tried to dress as the commoners, so that way he could blend in and really see what life was like in Europe, and bring that back to Russia.
And he wanted to westernize the country and copy the European ways, which included no more what Ivan had.
Oh, the beard.
No more beard.
The beard. So a little bit about the beard. It was, to Russians, a symbol of manhood. It was a symbol of Christianity. We've talked about how important religion is, and they thought that God had a beard. And if man was created in God's image, then men should have beards also. So the bigger, the fuller the beard, the longer it was supposed to be the more manly, the more power that you had. It was like a status symbol. And so one of Peter the Great's decisions was to have the Russians dress more Western, but to also cut off their beards. And this was a significant event. It took the nobles a really long time to get over that. It was I bet heartbreaking for them to lose, that almost that comfort, I guess, of having the beard. How did you feel when you lost your hair?
Still haunts me.
Yeah, still
I
haunts
can't
you.
even look in the mirror anymore.
I can tell based on your outfit.
No. There's Peter the Great right there. He's got the sweet stash.
Yeah, I
there.
was gonna say.
Look at that. Oh, yeah.
I'd trade in a beard for that stash any
That
day.
is sweet. Like a 14-year-old boy.
Kind of looks like one in the picture.
Peter's reforms, he's going to modernize the army, makes being a soldier a lifetime job. Had a big army and taxed people heavily to pay for it.
Of course.
Introduced the potato, which we talked about in Ireland, was integral to the people and giving them the nutrients and minerals they need.
It was easy to grow and could pretty much grow anywhere and didn't take a lot of effort, so it was gonna be a good crop.
And he made advances in education and did some
First
good things.
newspaper. Yeah.
What his baby was, though, was building a city on the Baltic Sea, which would give them year-round access, can't freeze. Problem was Sweden owned it, and he's going to fight a war with Sweden for 21 years to gain the land. They picked a swampy site, which
not
led
the best choice,
to
but
thousands of deaths by the serfs who were forced to do the work. Disease spread rapidly. But it's going to work. Peter forces the nobles to leave Moscow, and he moved the capital to St. Petersburg.
he referred to this, if you guys have your textbooks or happen to look, he called it the window on Europe. So it was like his access to get to the rest of Europe, that more modern Western version of what he was hoping Russia could be.
So St. Petersburg is right here, which gives them access through into Europe. And there is an aerial version
Oh,
of
I like that.
this amazing city.
Very cool.
Okay, so that concludes our lesson on Russia. See you next time.